All right, Nitro 121, also January 5th, 1998, a better show. The NWO is shown arriving in a pair of limousines.
When he says a better show, that tells you how bad Raw was.
There seems to be some tension between the group in Limo A and the group in Limo B. They talk about the non-finish last week when the show went off the air while Sting and Hogan was still going on. Said due to court injunction, they were not allowed to show what happened after the show went off the air. Gene Okerlund then interviewed J.J. Dillon. J.J. informed the world that Sting was still world champion. He apologized for going off the air last week without a finish.
Dude, JJ has to come out here and with a straight face say, last week we had a set amount of time for Nitro, and we were forced to leave the air. I'm like, dude, you guys had gone over on every show for like 2 fucking months, and you went over on this fucking show.
Is there a bowl game?
No, it was just stupid.
Asking me?
I don't know.
Is there one today?
No.
He's trying to explain why they had to go off the air right on time last
Right.
week.
I'm pretty
Because
sure
of a
ball
stupid
games don't start
storyline.
at 9 p.m.
Well, there is that.
Yeah. Anyway, they talked about the legal battle over this footage. Said the tape will be released within 24 hours, and you can tune into a new television program called Thunder to see it this Thursday. They also promised footage from Starrcade, and they talked and wouldn't shut up.
When the hell are we going to get Thunder on the WWE Network?
I don't want to watch it.
I didn't ask you, Craig.
No.
But what about people that want to follow along the storyline?
I don't want to watch it.
I want to see this footage that they aired on Thunder, and I can't find it on the network.
Chris Jericho came out wielding a steel chair and a jacket. I was hoping the jacket would have lights. He said he was there to apologize for his actions last week. He said, Dave Penzer, here's a new chair for you to sit in, a new jacket for you to wear.
Man, it's like me and you in the Christmas show.
He said, my actions last week will never happen again. It was Chris Jericho versus DDP. They were in the Georgia Dome. There were a lot of people there.
There was great heat for this show.
Mm-hmm. Jericho keeps offering handshakes and then cheap-shotting Paige, and Paige keeps falling for it. And finally, Paige catches a kick, spins him around, hits the diamond cutter, and wins.
About 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Jericho snapped again after the match. Gene then interviewed Nick Lambros
God.
from the WCW legal team.
Listen, God bless Nick Lambros. This really was WCW's attorney, one of them. They brought this poor guy out here and they gave him a bunch of bullet points. And boy, was it a struggle to get this out. And keep in mind, Mean Gene is there to carry the guy.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of wrestlers that are playing wrestlers. Why can't they have somebody play an attorney?
Well, they wanted to get Nick Lambros on the screen.
So his announcement was that wrestlers who violate WCW policies are subject to fine, suspension, or both.
Duh.
This is apparently news.
And then everybody booed. And then Gene says, what about the NWO? And Nick, I'm pretty sure what he meant to say was, Nitro is a WCW show, but all of this applies to the NWO as well. It was a struggle to get this information out to the world.
Goldberg versus Stevie Ray.
Let's talk about the real important thing about this match. Chief J. Strongbow is there.
Chief J. Strongbow was in the crowd. He seemed to have no idea what was going on.
But he still looked like he'd beat your ass.
Sure. So this here Goldberg-Stevie Ray match should have gone 30 seconds. Gave him 5 minutes.
You know what, though? Goldberg was an Atlanta Falcon. They were in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. And this crowd loved them some Bill Goldberg.
And that's also true. So the ref sort of got bumped. This distracted Stevie, and Goldberg hit a spear and a jackhammer for the win. And yes, it was a huge pop.
Now, earlier in the show, I was talking about how horrible Raw was. And how if Raw would have been better, they would have beaten Nitro earlier than they did.
Yeah.
But they were terrible.
Yes.
Now we're going to tell you why Nitro continually beat Raw. Because only on WCW Monday Nitro could you see the Barbarian against John Nord.
John Nord.
Can someone please explain to me why horrible matches on Nitro are so goddamn great.
That's a good question.
And horrible matches on Raw are so fucking terrible. I have a theory that in WWE, they wanted everybody to work a certain way. And when you did it poorly, it was very bad. In WCW, everybody had their own style, and so you were allowed to do whatever the fuck you wanted, and sometimes you got absolute train wrecks like this. And because they were so wacky and so different, they were awesome. This was the greatest match of the 90s. I can't remember what Dave wrote in The Observer. He wrote something like hideous, and he wrote it in all caps. This is Dave Meltzer.
Yeah.
That's fucking seriously bad when he uses all caps. I don't know what match he was watching. This was
I'll tell you.
amazing.
He was watching John Nord wrestle the Barbarian.
Oh, come on, dude.
John Nord is best known as the Berserker in WWF.
Well, he was fucking berserk here.
With a sword. And I believe earlier in his career, he also wrestled as a Bruiser Brody knockoff called Nord the Barbarian. So this was in fact a Barbarian versus Barbarian encounter.
He came out wearing a shirt. Says, if you don't like me, ... And then he turned around.
Actually, underneath, if you don't like me, it said in smaller letters in parentheses, see back.
Oh.
That's what happened.
And what did it say on the back?
I will never make fun of Ole Anderson shirts ever again.
And on the back, it says,
What about Nikita's?
I'll never make fun of Nikita's again.
on the front, it says, if you don't like me, ...
See back.
On the back, it said, there's something wrong with you.
Oh. That is a serious accusation.
Well,
luckily, I like John Nord. So there's something right with me.
He comes out here. He's a huge man, probably Kama's size, 6'6", muscular 300-pounder. He's got white hair and this white shirt and white underwear and white furry boots.
He had the funniest mean guy match I ever saw in my life.
That's a good way to put it. I have never seen anything like what they tried to do in the first 2 minutes. The only way I watched it, seriously, 2 minutes in, I rewound and just watched the whole thing over again just to make sure I'd actually seen what happened. The only way I can describe it is this. Nord is not the worst wrestler I ever saw, but I've never seen anyone try so hard and still be so terrible.
Mongo's close.
It's true.
Same direction, but not like this. The first 2 minutes of this, that brawl,
That was awesome.
it was. I was I was full of awe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He reminded me of a bigger, leaner, sober Sandman.
Kind of, yeah. They did a spot, which I must talk about. I urge everyone who does not have a subscription to the network to go back 19 years ago this week and watch this edition of Nitro for the Pescado
Oh,
that John Nord did. As God is my witness, they must have been in the back, and Nord just said, I'm going to throw you over the top to the outside, and then I'm going to get you. Because it's not like he went over the top rope and did a knee drop, or a splash, or a high cross. He just fucking went over the top and got him.
here's what happened.
He just landed on him.
I watched this a few times too, trying to see what he was trying to do. Barbarian's lying on the floor outside the ring. Nord does a pescado. He lands on 2 feet next to Barbarian and then kind of tumbles over and sits down on him.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. It was like one of those things where maybe Barbarian was supposed to be standing up, but he wasn't. And Nord was like, I'm just going to fucking get you. And he just jumped.
So it settles down for a while.
It did?
It actually did.
No, it
But
didn't.
as they're doing stuff, it's clear the match is just meandering all over the place and with no sign of an ending in sight.
But the fans were going batshit for this match.
Oh, they've never seen anything like this before.
No. This was a first.
Oh, it was. They're having a battle up top, and Nord shoves him down. Barbarian is on his hands and knees in the ring, and Nord does a flying elbow drop off the middle rope. Then Nord puts him in a camel clutch, sits back with it like Rusev, and Barbarian submits.
He didn't sit back. I mean, you're right that he did kind of what Rusev does, but this was the goddamn worst camel clutch. He put him in it.
Stop right there, by the way. The worst camel clutch. Right. Every 8-year-old, not that 8-year-olds listen to the show, but if you asked an 8-year-old to put a 6-year-old brother in the camel clutch, he'd do it perfect right away. John Nord didn't.
John Nord gets on the guy's back as he's on all fours, and he grabs his neck, and he puts his arms on his knees or whatever, and he starts doing the camel clutch. And then he goes to sit back like Rusev, but the Barbarian doesn't stay on his knees and lean back like he's stretching his quads. Barbarian ends up sitting on his ass. And Nord is just sitting behind him, holding onto his chin. There's no leverage. Like, there's no leverage to speak of. And the Barbarian must submit.
Yes. He submitted to the spaz.
You ever seen those spots in wrestling where somebody bends the arm the way it's supposed to bend?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I could at least really strongly use my imagination and pretend that he's actually attacking the shoulder. There's nothing you can pretend when watching this fucking finish here. There was no leverage. There was nothing to crank. There was nothing to do here, and the guy had to give up. This was the best horrible match I've ever seen.
It was astonishing.
I've never seen a Mongo match this awesome.
No. Not even close.
John Nord is my new favorite hideous wrestler, and I hope he sticks around for years. I don't even remember.
I don't think so.
I need to go back and read some of my reviews of these matches. There's no way I appreciated it at the time. I hadn't seen enough horrible wrestling to really appreciate this.
Oakland brought Eric Bischoff out for a promo. Bischoff denied any internal tension within the NWO. He claimed Hogan had beaten Sting last week and that he had also beaten Larry Zbyszko at Starrcade. They promised all of this will be shown on Thunder, which apparently was just a 2-hour recap show.
By the way, Starrcade, Nick Patrick was supposed to do a fast count, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But they pretended he did.
Mm-hmm.
And they spent a whole show pretending that he did a fast count. Now they're promoting that if you watch Thunder, you'll see footage of the finish. You'll see footage of Nick Patrick's count, and you'll be able to decide for yourself what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck would they do this?
What are the chances they use the fast count from Nitro?
I mean, they
Instead of-
could.
Or cut to a close-up. They put Nick Patrick in an empty
Sure.
ring, had him do a 3 fast count, and filmed that.
All I know is if they show the actual count, they're totally out of their minds.
What if they just sped the film up?
I don't think that's what they did.
Have the announcers go in a high-pitched voice and everything. Psychosis versus Juventud Guerrera.
I mean, the tape's got to break, right?
Something.
I
You would
forget
think.
what they did.
This may have been the quintessential Juventud Guerrera Psychosis match. It was peak Juvi and it was also peak Psychosis. I like the spot where they're, hitting the ropes back and forth and switching and ducking everything. And Juvi, ducks a clothesline. He doesn't hit the ropes. He throws in the brakes. He turns around and then runs at Psychosis. This was actually harder than just hitting the ropes and coming back. But he did it. Then Psychosis, first of all, he misses a huge leg drop and appears to tear his hamstring. Then he gets drop kicked in the chest. He gets drop kicked in the chest and does a front flip to sell it.
No. It was a springboard drop kick to the leg.
Yes.
Because Juvi'd been working over his leg.
That may have been the idea.
That's not what happened, though.
I promise you,
But that was the idea.
Juvi's feet caught Psychosis above the belt line. And
Well,
he
you
did
got to be safe, Vinny.
he did a front flip.
You don't want to hurt Psychosis.
It looked stupid. So they did some stuff. Juvi won with a 450 splash, and then they re-aired the plancha Juvi did, where in fact he landed on his face on the floor.
By the way, this means Juvi gets a shot at the Ultimo Dragon on Thunder for the Cruiserweight title.
Well, at this point, they'd already taped Juvi making title defenses. Hate to spoil it for you.
Oops.
They recapped Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash having a dispute from April of last year. And stuff like this makes you think, man, this NWO thing has been going on now for a year and a half. This should have been the end. It's still going. Okerlund interviewed Booker T. He dedicated his championship win last week to his son. He promised to beat Prince Iaukea tonight, and he fired up the Atlanta fans. So we got Booker T versus Prince Iaukea. It was a total 3-minute squash for Booker. Beat him up for 90% of the match, hit the Harlem Hangover, and won.
Show is absolutely directionless. Absolutely directionless. The only direction they have is, it looks like, the idea at this point was, we're going to split up the NWO and they're going to feud for a year. And then these WCW guys will just do matches. And what a match we had next.
Before that, after the Booker T match, Shivani throws it to break, and the music's playing, and playing, and playing. And finally, you hear Heenan mutter, "You're good, Shivani." And then they go to commercial. Vicious and Delicious and K-Dog versus the Steiners and Ray Trailer. This was fun.
This was an all-action match. Tons of excitement. The fans loved the baby faces. They hated the heels.
Yep.
This was very, very entertaining television.
How can anybody hate Buff Bagwell?
I don't know.
Totally pointless, though.
Sure, but it's fun. No, I disagree. Fun is a point.
Well,
the point of this was to be a fun match.
Sure.
I like at the very, very beginning, Scott Steiner's in the ring with, I think, Norton. But he looks over at Buff and spits at him. And Buff is outraged. And he takes like a half step into the ring and points at Steiner. And Steiner just slaps him in the face. And Buff does the funniest bump getting caught in the ropes. Buff was awesome.
This Rick Steiner we keep seeing here, this Scott Steiner we keep seeing here, it's like an origin story on Big Papa Pump.
It absolutely is.
That was the whole point of this match.
By the end, it was.
He's getting bigger and bigger. He's now cut his hair.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a horrible haircut.
It was
Bad.
awful. He had not yet settled on the buzz cut. He just said, cut off the long part and leave everything else.
Yeah, he had a big round hairdo. Hideous.
It's a helmet head for sure.
Yeah. I also like Rick Steiner making fun of Buff's poses. There's a lot to like in this match. So eventually it breaks down into a six-way. They did, the lucha spot where everyone does like a big dive, but a different dive onto the same side of the ring? Their version of that was, I'll clothesline you out of the ring. Then you clothesline me out of the ring. Then someone else clotheslines you until all six guys have gone over. So it's down to just these Steiners and K-Dog in the ring. They go for the double team. Oh, DiBiase, by the way, also kicking the hell out of Vincent. I feel important to bring that up.
Why not?
That's 2 weeks in a row now. He's whooped on this guy.
True.
So the Steiners are going for the double team Bulldog. Scott's got K-Dog up on his shoulders. And then he says, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to beat him myself. He drops him to the mat. Rick is confused and Buff nuts him. But then Scott just picks up K-Dog, hits him with his screwdriver, and pins him. And indeed, the seeds have been planted.
Mm-hmm.
Nitro party clips. Better than most. Had a big projection screen outside and a bunch of people watching in the lawn having a good old time. Brad Armstrong versus Rick Martell.
Oh my God. This was Rick Martell's return, and he was 42. He looked awesome. And let me tell y'all something here, all you youngsters listening to this that want to get into the wrestling business. If you want to learn how to be an old school, fiery babyface, don't watch Brad Armstrong in this match. Watch Rick Martell. This guy was so awesome in this match. Everything that he did, every single solitary movement he made was awesome. Always had his fists up, always full of fire. He was great selling. He was great making his comeback. Fans hated it because it was Rick Martell versus Brad Armstrong. It wasn't even Rick the model. It was just Richard Martell, man, against Brad
Canadian.
Armstrong, fella, in a professional wrestling match. And they had a great professional wrestling match, but nobody gave a shit, and it's too bad because they were awesome.
Buddy Rose once told me that Rick Martell was the best babyface he ever saw.
Dude, he was the best babyface I ever saw in this match.
Yes. Chris Benoit and Mongo versus Saturn and Riggs.
I gotta talk more about Martell.
Okay, cool.
I remember when Martell came back, and I was like, look at this fucker. He's awesome. And he was really great for a while, and then I think he hurt his neck and he retired for real. But I remember watching his matches and thinking, man, look at this Rick Martell can really go. I did not appreciate at the time, like I appreciate now, exactly how great this Rick Martell was. He was literally like the best babyface ever in this match. And they only went like 4 minutes in front of a crowd that hated them. And he was still awesome. If I were still wrestling today, I think I would go back and watch every single Rick Martell babyface match I could, and I'd be even better. Guy was awesome.
Chris Benoit and Mongo versus Saturn and Riggs. They got the heat on Mongo.
Oh my God.
Which meant first we had to see Mongo running wild on the two of them, and then him trying to feed their spot where they cut him off.
You know, the thing with Mongo was, his offense was terrible, but he was a big, tough football player. And when he ran wild, clubbering and doing all this wackiness, you could kind of suspend your disbelief and think, yeah, it's a badass. He's beating up some men.
And he had charisma.
He had charisma.
Mongo hit the face first choke slam, much like Braun Strowman in this
yeah.
match.
God.
Yeah.
But my point is, the real weak part of his game was his selling and his bumps.
Right.
Yes.
I've never seen anyone bump as bad as Mongo. He's so bad, and he's so heavy. Like, every time somebody tries to lift him, it's like they're trying to lift the fucking moon, and then they just drop the guy on the ground, and he just drops stiff as a board. And he lands on random body parts, and oh, God, he was so horrible, and he sold the whole match.
So the cutoff was, we'll go for a double suplex. Mongo, you hit us with a double gourd buster. And it worked, because he was strong. He tagged in Benoit, and I don't want to alarm you, but at this point, the match got better. Broke into a four-way, and then all the other Flock geeks started interfering, and somewhere in here, Raven snuck in, hit Benoit with a DDT, and Saturn made the cover and got the pin.
Finish was great. Rest of it sucked.
Okerlund brought Ric Flair out for a promo.
Okay, what was up with Brett's music? This had to be an overdub, right?
I think so.
I can't remember what his WCW music
I
was.
remember you were a huge fan of his WCW music, and I didn't. I have no memory of what it was.
Well, it wasn't this.
Yeah.
Look for it.
Maybe it was a too close rip-off of something else, because we know they're dubbing in Jericho's music. I think they may actually be dubbing in Page's music, too, because his old music, I think, was a lot closer to a rip-off of Nirvana than what he's using on these network shows. So there may be a thing where the lawyers in 2016 said these rip-offs are too close to the original.
I don't think you can do that, though.
I don't know. There's no other reason to have changed Jericho's music.
Well, I think, I don't know. I presume they changed his music because he's on Raw all the time now with a very noticeable theme.
But they didn't used to.
I know, but...
He changed somewhere to his Pearl Jam rip-off song. And I think it's here. And I think that's why they're... I'm guessing. I don't know. But anyway. So Bret Hart comes out. Bret and Rick shake hands. And Flair says, now that we are here face-to-face, Bret, I want you to say your tagline where you claim to be the best there is while I'm right in front of you.
I want to make sure to mention that Flair claimed that there was an audience of 40 million people watching them at that moment.
It's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
So Bret, without hesitation, said, I'm the best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. And then he said, I want to add, woo! And this got him
No.
booed in Atlanta.
He did not say that, Vinny. He said, whoa. And it was so bad that he started laughing.
Yeah.
And Bret's a very, very serious man.
Bret does not laugh in his promos.
Let me tell you something. It takes a lot to get Bret Hart to
He
laugh.
popped himself.
And he laughed so hard when he tried his best to get that out, and it came out, whoa.
And he was even better. Flair's next words were, that's very good.
It sounded like Stu.
We do always compare Bret and Owen to Stu on these shows.
You know what's funny is, I remember in the 90s, Stu used to be in the crowd a lot.
Yeah.
And I would look at Stu, and then I would look at Bret, and it'd be like, I sort of see a family resemblance, but Bret looks nothing like his dad. Bret looks so much like Stu now.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And Owen looked like Stu then.
It's weird.
Just had a different haircut.
I mean, it's not weird. It's a fucking guy's dad, but it is weird that I thought he would never end up looking like Stu, and then he's starting to.
We all turn into our fathers, Brian.
I realize that. Boy,
So-
do I ever.
Yeah.
So, Flair says, I dare you to say it again. And Bret says, I'm the best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. And if you don't like that, too bad. Now Flair is getting pissed. He lists off great champions, the Briscoes, the Funks, Harley Race. Bret, you want to say you're better than any of them? Fine. But you cannot possibly think you're actually better than me. I want to hear you say that you're better than me. So Bret removes his jacket and says, I've heard that to be the man, you've got to beat the man. And I did that a long time ago. Now, if you got a problem, Flair, do something about it. And they're going back and forth. And a couple of times they say, don't wrap this up. And they're bickering. And finally, Gene steps in and says, we are out of time. And Bret leaves and Flair is still pissed. This was awesome.
This was so awesome. I must have transcribed this whole goddamn thing. I remember at the time, I transcribed a lot of the great interviews. If I thought an interview was really great, I went back and I I transcribed the whole thing. This was one of them. And I not only remembered everything they said, but I remembered exactly how they said it. When Brett said, "If you don't like it, too bad." He was so understated about it. Like, I don't know. This was
It was believable.
It was great. It was so great. Yeah, Brett, when he was asked to say it, like he stood there for a second, and he almost seemed like he was a little bit nervous, but then he just took a deep breath, and boy, he said it like he meant it. He built up a head of steam, and he let Flair know, "I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And if you don't like it, too bad." Goddamn great. What's wrong with everybody nowadays?
Lex Luger versus Randy Savage. They actually flew in Michael Buffer to do intros. He introduced Lex saying he had, quote, "power and conditioning that were surpassed by no one." No one on earth. Nick Patrick was out there to ref, but J.J. Dillon ran out to put a stop to that and suspend him. Eric Bischoff came out to protest, but to no avail.
By the way, they suspended him till Thursday.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because
He got a 2-day suspension.
didn't JJ say, I mean, we've all seen it, right? We've all seen the footage.
Of Starrcade?
Yeah. It was on fucking pay-per-view.
Still footage on Nitro if you did not see the pay-per-view.
I know, but there were VCRs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there wasn't just one tape of this goddamn pay-per-view in the world.
Right.
So JJ suspending him until everyone can see the tape.
Yeah.
It's like, you haven't seen the tape, you idiot? You can't make your own goddamn decision?
Yeah, and we're not working again till Thursday. So you're suspended till the next time we work.
Yes.
Now, there was one really great thing about this, and that is that Bischoff is very mad that Nick Patrick has been suspended till Thursday. So he comes out, and he's yelling at JJ. And JJ, he will hear none of this. And he just starts power walking to the back. And as God is my witness, there is a moment where Eric Bischoff is running. He's running. Dillon is walking. And Bischoff still can't catch up to him.
Yes.
You have never seen a man walk faster than J.J. Dillon walked in this segment. And I've walked with Steve Sims, who I thought was the fastest walker I'd ever seen. Go back and watch this. Your mind will be blown at the speed with which J.J. can power walk.
So literally at the bell, we had NWO guys running out and interfering. Savage beat him up for a while. Lex made his comeback and called for the torture rack, but Savage rolled outside, cut Lex out there, threw him back in, and then Lex ate a small package and won. So Savage snaps. He's destroying Lex. He's beating.
Claims a fast count.
Claims a fast count. He lays Lex on the steps and goes to kill him with a steel chair when who runs out to grab the chair away but Eric Bischoff. Savage turns around, sees that Bischoff has stopped him, does not hesitate, punches Eric Bischoff out. Now Hogan's out there.
It was really weird the way they did it, though, because he raises the chair above his head and Bischoff grabs it. And Savage is a scary dude. He turned around and punched this guy so fast that you could believe that maybe he wasn't sure it was Bischoff.
That's true.
Maybe he just punched somebody.
That's true. Hogan runs out, trying to calm Savage down, which is never an easy thing. Nash saunters out, and he's looking. I'm still not sure how he managed to pull this off, but he's standing like beside Savage, and then clotheslines him from behind. Still not sure how that happened.
One thing great about Nash, and I don't usually say a lot of great things about Nash, but Nash was very good at being a bouncer, because he was. He was out there with Hogan, and this wild man got out of control, and he fucked him up.
Better stop to this.
And just walked off.
Yep. So Savage recovers. Hogan is bewildered, but he is able to convince Savage that we are friends. The NWO is not the enemy. Luger's the enemy. And Hogan and Savage and Vicious and Delicious are all going to attack Lex. Sting runs out to stand by Luger's side. The brawl breaks out, and the show ends.
You know, it's sad knowing how this all turns out. And there is a split, as we all know. There's the Wolf Pack, and there's
Oh, God.
the LWO.
A and B.
All these other stupid things. But if you just stop time right here, and you think about, there was a Nitro show. It was invaded by supposed WWF guys. They formed the New World Order. They took over for a year. Sting came back, and he finally defeated Hulk Hogan and won the championship. That should have been the end of that story. And then chapter 2 is now the NWO, because they lost the title, much like the Flock when Raven is not around. They have been thrown into disarray. The NWO splits into 2 factions, and you have the warring factions, and that's your storyline leading to the next Starrcade. They could have done this, and it would have worked. It would have been a great way to continue the story. But as we continue on here into 1998, you will all see that that's not what happened.
No.
God. Just thinking of next year's Georgia Dome show.
1 year at a time, man. 1 year at a time.
All right, everybody, that's it. The Tokyo Dome, by the way, another Dome show, is tonight, and we'll be talking about that over the next couple of days as well. I may, since Lucha Underground is about to go on hiatus, and since I'm not sure I can handle another 2-hour NXT show, Vinny and I may be looking at the Tokyo Dome on Thursday's show instead of Lucha Underground and NXT.
I've heard worse plans.
May watch the top matches from that show, but
Poor Vince.
one way or the other, I'll be talking about with Mike, I'll be talking about with Dave, hopefully talking about with Tom and Vinny as well. It is the New Japan version of WrestleMania, so make sure you check that out. And that is it from here, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.